Hope you're ready. It'll be here any minute.
Well, that's intense.
If you think that words like trash panda and triangle face monkey are a little too raw for your ears, you may want to skip this film. Hey, all you a-holes out there in YouTube land, my name is John, and today we have a review for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
Showtime, a-holes!
The latest installment in the MCU Marvel Universe. The first part's going to be a non-spoiler, so if you want to kind of see that before you see the movie, great. And then I'm going to do a spoiler review following that. So let's go and start with the non-spoiler stuff first. So why don't we begin with the team itself? The Guardians of the Galaxy. Of course, Star-Lord, Gamora, Groot, Rocket, Drax the Destroyer, the 5 a-holes we know and love. If you loved them in the first movie, I can only assume you're going to love them in this one. You get to know each one of the characters a little bit more. And not just the Guardians themselves, the side characters had a lot going for them too. I mean, what they did with Nebula and Yondu's character throughout the entirety. Yondu being in a kind of weird fatherly love triangle with Peter Quill and Ego, Kurt Russell's character.
I'm your dad, Peter.
He's really good at being very charismatic, as Kurt Russell always is. The fatherly love triangle really is kind of the focusing plot point. You have Gamora getting to know her sister Nebula a little bit more over the course of some Looney Tunes fighting. Gamora is just the nice one and she's the evil one. You take that for granted. In this one, you find out a little bit more why that is, and it really adds some street cred to Thanos for being a total douchebag. Groot is growing up. We saw him blown up at the end of the last Guardians movie, saving his friends, so now he is in infant mode. There's a great part in the very beginning. I don't want to spoil too much of it, but have you ever seen those little kids dancing at weddings where they just take over the entire floor and everyone just loves it? You're gonna love this dance.
Do me! Do me! Do me!
Drax got a lot of the jokes in this one. For Drax and Rocket's character, those two do get a particularly large lion's share of the comedic scenes and jokes in the movie, so you kind of see where the trade-off was. The writers knew very much what a big chunk of the comedy came from in Guardians 1, and they played that up to their benefit in this one. And it was all justified. It wasn't like they're going out of their way to do it. It was the funniest Marvel movie that I've seen by far to date. I really enjoyed the Mantis character. I thought that she was really fun. The actress who portrayed her did a very lovely job with her inflection, and it almost seemed like she was trying to put on being a human. And I do see a kind of a romance brewing between Drax and Mantis there, so I look forward to seeing where that goes. Let's get into some things that I may not have been such a big fan of, because you gotta have the good with the bad. It didn't do a lot to further the MCU. It's much more intimate. There's not the big universe sweeping, expanding changes that you would see in some of the other installments in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. One big kind of curveball this movie threw at everybody, and it kind of got me too, was the fact that they really didn't delve into Thanos too terribly much. Now don't get me wrong, they gave him some villain street cred because you find out in depth how he's been tormenting his daughters, but you don't really progress any further with him. I almost expected him to show up at least somewhere and threaten somebody.
I will bathe the starways in your blood.
But it looks like we'll have to wait for Thor Ragnarok for that. The music in this one was good. It wasn't as great as the first one, but if you're making a movie like Guardians of the Galaxy and you want the music to be such a core part of the story, I can only imagine as a writer and director, James Gunn's going to pick a lot of his favorites right off the bat. I noticed that the first 3 songs they let loose with in particular were definitely in the vein of the Guardians collection from the Awesome Mix Volume 1. So yeah, to kind of conclude the non-spoiler portion of this, I thought it was a great entry into the Marvel MCU. I thought that the characters were very well developed. Yeah, I'm excited to see where it goes, because even though it didn't do a whole lot as far as world expanding, there are at least 2 or 3 things that happen that you need to take watch of, and particularly the series of 5 end scene credits. Now this is going to be the spoiler portion of the review, so if you haven't seen it, get the fuck out. Like right now, just leave. Just walk out the door. I appreciate your viewing, and you're more than welcome to come back. But if you don't want to hear it, I don't want you to be here, so... Are they gone? Okay, finally, fantastic. I need to just talk about Yondu's run. Yondu got a raw shake, man. Well, I don't know if it's a raw shake. It's a deserved shake, but ultimately he gets the best arc in the entire movie. And I'm just going to spoil it all for you right now, so you better get ready. You find out that Yondu is in bad straits with the other members of this Ravager Society. Some of the original Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm talking like 1970s original. We got Sylvester Stallone out here as frickin' Starhawk, which was awesome, blew my damn mind away. He's like, Ravagers, let's do it! You just know they're going to be doing this later on. You don't have Ving Rhames and frickin' Sly Stallone come out if you're not going to be coming back to these characters as the original Guardians. Because basically Yondu comes out and you find out that he was smuggling children. He's disgraced by the people he looks up to within the Ravagers organization because of this.
Ravagers don't deal in kids!
And it really drives his character and is the thorn in his side the entire time. You find out the kids he was smuggling was for Ego. Ego has been basically going to every planet and finding some biddy to knock up. His ultimate goal is to spread himself across the entire galaxy to where there's an ego on every planet, and every planet's an ego. All right, Kurt Russell, so you're able to use an extension of yourself and make yourself look like anything, and you pick humans, which I get. It's a human story. We're the ones thinking of it. I totally understand where you're coming from there. My confusion comes when you start banging a bunch of alien chicks. You did end up hooking up a Star-Lord's mom, and you created Star-Lord, which was great for everybody, but he was one of the last kids it seems you actually sired. You find out that you did the nasty with a lot of aliens, and a lot of aliens didn't really look human. Why would you pick a human form and then go for the human last? Don't you think that if you picked the form that closest matched yours, you might have a little more success finding those genes than if you turned into a human and then had sex with a squid, or had sex with some crazy mud bug that looked like Zoidberg's worst nightmare? So that part of it bugged me a little bit. I'm like, you would think you'd put 2 and 2 together. If you look like a duck and you talk like a duck, you should probably go home with a duck, is all I'm saying.
Gross.
So Yondu basically goes out when these kids are old enough, picks up the kids, after Ego's killing the mothers, mind you. What does he do? Bam, brain tumor. You find out that's what happened to Star-Lord's mom. You're welcome. Ego's killing the mothers, taking the kids back. Yondu's been delivering these kids only to be murdered once Ego finds out they don't have the celestial genes. So what does he do when he finds us out? He takes the last kid he's got, happens to be Star-Lord, Peter Quill, takes him under his wing, and rolls him through the galaxy. The discovery of how close those two were connected is really drawn out through the movie, and I do enjoy that. It wasn't until about middle it really hit home they were going for that with Yondu's arc. You realize how much of an impression that this man has had on this one, and you learn who the true father in the situation is, and what it truly means being a biological father versus being an actual parent. And it's truly beautiful. It has one of the best character deaths, I think, in the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe. Really brings it home, and it's a great, nice little punctuation bit to Michael Rooker's Yondu character. What they do with Nebula's character, where you find out that Thanos, the big purple douchebag in the chair, every time he would feel froggy, he would have Gamora and Nebula as children cockfight for him. And every time one of them would lose, which was always Nebula, we're talking goose egg, we're talking done. We're talking like the Detroit Lions. I'm not sure what year it was, but the Detroit Lions didn't win a single game. In professional sports, that sucks, and I'm sure that sucks in children cockfighting as well. Every time she would lose, or whatever part was blamed on the loss, Thanos would just scoop out and replace with a cybernetic part. Could you imagine growing up like that, and then having to get back into the cockfighting ring with your new cybernetic eye, or your new arm with maybe a blade on it or something, and you gotta fight Gamora again, and then she beats your ass again, and then Thanos hauls you right back to the chop shop, and now he takes off your leg because you tripped at the wrong time. Oh, we're gonna take that foot, and you're screaming, and you're crying, and you know what you gotta do just on Thursday? You gotta get right back into the freaking cockfighting ring and get your ass kicked by Gamora again. Now that's going to make you a villain no matter how you square at it, and you can't blame her. And that's one of the great things that this movie did with its characters. It gave you an introspective look on them, why they tick, and ultimately that's basically what the entire movie boils down to, is like what makes a family. I think one of the greatest lines about it is one that Drax said in the trailer.
All you do is yell at each other. You're not friends.
No, we're family.
From my own personal family experience, being in a family of 6, I thought it was really well represented. That line really encapsulated that with me. One of the greatest after-credit scenes I have seen from the Marvel Cinematic Universe to date has proved a long-running fan theory, and it is that Stan Lee is a member, or at least an agent, of the extraterrestrial race, the Watchers, that exist in the Marvel Universe. Now, the Watchers are an alien species that's ancient, and they are designated to watch. So they basically record all of history. So you have each member of this race stationed out somewhere in space, and they just perceive what's going on, and they show up for big events. Now, what's interesting about this for the universe as a whole is because Stan Lee's shown up in more than just the Marvel Cinematic Universe Marvel movies. He's been in Deadpool, he's been in the X-Men, he's been in Spider-Man. So if you're truly going wide net with this theory here, we have Stan Lee in every single Marvel movie, whether the studios want it or not.
Enough said.
Well, thank you guys so much for hearing me out and rant about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I thought it was a tremendous addition to the Marvel MCU. Yeah, again, you know the drill. If you like it, like it. If you want to subscribe and see more, subscribe. Hopefully you enjoy the movie if you haven't seen it. If you have seen it, let me know what you thought. Are you excited with where they're going forward? And just to be fair to everybody, where the hell was Thanos? Where do you think he was? Again, thank you so much for hearing me out. You take care and have a good rest of your day. It's like, I can't believe you made me cry about a blue dude with a red fin.